Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Shamans Cave. I'm Sandra Ingerman, and I am here in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
And I'm Renee Baribeau. I'm here in Palm Desert, California. How is everyone today?
I think everyone is hanging on with claws,
Right?
or or um, or taking a very graceful path through what's happening right now, and using this time for reflection and meditation and ceremony. And one of the things that I'm really interested in, I know that everybody has different interests, but I truly believe, and we're going to talk more about this on the show today, that the coronavirus is a spiritual, it's a spiritual virus. It came from spiritual imbalance, and that's really clear. And I did share that on my introductory. I did a 90-minute call talking about this particular topic of the coronavirus being a spiritual illness, and how to correct that. But one of the things that I've been really interested in, and I don't spend much time on Facebook, is that when I do see a post that has an elder from another tradition trying to talk to us about what's happening from a native standpoint, the spiritual guidance that they're getting, it's really fascinating to me, because what I'm seeing is that the exact same guidance is coming from different nations, from different tribes that don't live near each other. They don't communicate with each other, but they're bringing through exactly the same words. And I find that really interesting. And so for me, what really came up for me in reading all of this, because way before the coronavirus ever came about, I became interested in a project of gifting our descendants information of what the ancestors for tens of thousands of years have been teaching, of how to survive through challenging times, because they already knew what we were going to face, and they shared with us. And so here we are, we're getting the same exact information from different tribes all over the US, and I'm sure all over the world. I'm just seeing some of the elders from the US right now. And it's not the message that I think is that I want to share, because the message that they're sharing is the same message that I'm teaching right now, is this is a spiritual illness, and this is cause and effect. And it's come from how we've treated the earth and how we've treated all of nature. But what really touched me is they're not just doing 10-minute journeys. They're doing ceremonies for 3 nights, 3 days, 5 nights, 5 days, singing and dancing, and all the community talking to the creator and talking to the spirits and asking about this, and asking for the wisdom, and asking for how this virus got created, and what's going on, and what's going to happen. And it felt like such a loss to me when I read how a community came together with their sage and their sacred herbs and their drums and rattles, and they sang and danced for 3 nights and 3 days to bring through this wisdom for us. And what I see on the computer of what the general population is doing is, how many things can you get Alexa to do for you? Um, how many crazy noises can you make Alexa make for you? It's getting ridiculous that people in in the isolated state that we're in, are not using the time to pray and to do spiritual work for yourself and for the planet. We're just using this time for how do you entertain yourself? You know, how do you make toys out of everything in your house? And then you see these native people who are bringing through the true wisdom that we could all bring through if we turned our lives into a ceremony right now, instead of trying to figure out how do we just entertain ourselves.
I wish I had time for both. I don't have any time for entertainment, and I don't have any time. Well, I make some time for ceremony. I make sure I take walks. Can you tell everyone that Sandra is adamant about this? And they're like, oh, I'm really tired. I think I'm going to entertain myself this Saturday. She said, I've got a topic. And I'm there like, oh. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this is, you know, as healers and leaders, there's a social responsibility to our community. And then I thought, like, okay, well, you know, it's like the time that I tried to give the chanupa back to the elders, and the elders said, well, you should have thought a lot longer about taking it before you thought to give it back. And I remembered those words yesterday when I'm thinking like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't feel like doing the Shaman's Cave tomorrow. And then I get this adamant email from Sandra about something that happened. And I'm there like, and then I said to a friend on the phone, I'm there like, boy, sometimes when you sign up for these bigger jobs and these bigger responsibilities, and, you know, people are looking to the wisdom that you bring. And certainly, you know, we hold that space together here every week, is that you don't get an opportunity as wise elders not to show up, not to do the ceremonies. I have a group in the Wind Clan. We lit our candles. We do the I Am Symposium in December, where we had, you know, hundreds of fire tenders. But I said, hey, we need to light our candles again. And sure enough, 100 people jumped right on in, and they've got their candles lit again. And that's certainly not 3 days, but they're certainly, how do you show up responsibly in service is the question that I always ask.
Right. Yeah, and I think that what you're sharing, we don't have a culture who's been trained to do ceremonies for 3 days and 3 nights. And so that I don't think is going to happen unless things get a lot worse. And then I think people will try pretty much anything. It's just, how do we bring the sacred back during this time, instead of just seeing this time as we leave everything to the scientists and to the doctors to figure out, and what all our only responsibility is washing our hands, staying 6 feet away from people, and finding ways to entertain ourselves. You know, there has to be some way where we start to bring more of that sacred work back into our homes again. And the incident that Renee was talking about yesterday, and sorry, Renee, if you wanted a day off. I'm always up for a day off.
No rest for the weary.
I've actually missed 2 appointments this week, and it's interesting what my psyche is doing. I'm that desperate for time off. I had 2 appointments this week over the phone, and I told my husband 6 times that I have these appointments over the phone. And the next day I woke up and I said, ooh, I have the day off today. and on 2 separate days. And I kept looking at it at my calendar, but it was so clear my psyche couldn't take one more thing. And it just saw a blank. It said right in there. So anyway, we had to go out and buy food. And And we live in Santa Fe, and Santa Fe is called the City Different, and it's known as a spiritual center. And I can't say everybody here is friendly. You know, we have the same diverse populations of every place on the planet, but you're used to a certain kind of friendliness, especially for certain things. And we went to the co-op, which is usually, you know, the most spiritual of all the stores in Santa Fe. And my God, the nastiness of the people working there was, it really blew me away. And I understand they're putting their lives in danger. They feel that they're not being protected. I have no issues with that. But what I was seeing, again, I'm seeing the coronavirus as a spiritual illness. We flooded the collective with too many negative thought forms. The political situation, the immigrants, Australia, the Amazon, we've just been flooding the collective. So I'm real sensitive to that, and I see our food being packed with so much anger and so much hate going in.
Sorry.
It was unbelievable. I was like, I just wanted to leave the bag there and leave the store. And then we went to the oldest plant store in Santa Fe. They're never really friendly there, ever. I've been here for 8 years. I've never really seen anybody friendly, but I never saw anything like this. Not one person, not one staff member looked at you. And we bought a lot, you know. We're planting food. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of community gardens coming up in the coming times. And again, all this negativity coming into the plants that we're going to put into the ground and eat. And so the excited topic that I wanted to talk to Renee about today, because, you know, she's such an amazing cook and chef, is we really have to, we should always have been doing this, but there's so much anger right now with the workers for good reason. I'm not saying that they don't have good reason, but I'm saying the product that we end up with at home is filled with this negative energy that's feeding the problems that we're having. So it's how do we bring ceremony in to clean, to cook with love. When we take everything out of the bag from the grocery store clerk, who was just so angry as they were throwing things in the bag like they were trying to kill it. How do you clear that? How do you clear that so you don't end up eating it and ingesting it? And your plants that you put in the garden are grown with love. They didn't start by being planted filled with hate. It's an interesting.
It's interesting. And, you know, over at my grocery store, because I tend to go to the bigger grocery store where there's more room to spread out, which is, you know, one of my walks. I walk to the grocery store, and the people have been so nice in there. So I don't know what's going on over in Santa Fe, but over in Palm Desert at the Albertsons, they are like, it's making me like, wow, I'm going to go get them all a Starbucks card. I am. I'm going to go get them a drive-through Starbucks card and go thank them for being, you know, thank them for the work that they're doing. Or I was thinking about that anyway, because my staff's been asking, what can we do? And I'm there like, well, how about, my friend is just on the opposite. Somebody gave her a lot of money to wrap cookies in duos and take them over to the hospital. So they delivered like a whole like boatload of cookies over to the hospital, all wrapped up, ready to go. So it's interesting that, I don't know, that over there where, you know, I don't know why people are But I've been thinking, okay, well, everyone's being really, really nice. Is there going to be like an end to this niceness? And then sure enough, I get a text while we're sitting here like, I need to talk to you about so-and-so. So it's starting.
Well, I'm not saying that every store is like that.
No, I know.
There are stores that we go to that people are just, I mean, they're going out of their way to just be friendly and nice and try to make everybody smile. But I'm talking about what happens if you end up bringing home.
Right, I know. I'm teasing.
Yeah, I know you are.
Because I cooked last night. I'm thinking like, well, I was like such a long week. I wanted to go out to dinner. I wanted to just, just sometimes to go sit at I don't drink, but go sit at a bar and let the server and hear all the hustle and bustle around you and the noise. It's very distracting for somebody who works at home all the time. And, because we're kind of always in that, that group. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to cook. And so for me, one of the things when I started cooking at 30, when I was really pretty broken, or no, I started cooking at 22 when I was extremely broken. But that when I opened my restaurant, I realized that, my mood still swung from one far to the other far side. But when I got present with the food, something changes. And so what I was thinking about last night was that I wonder if people are cooking from scratch, or are we still eating the processed foods? And so for me, the very act of chopping the onion, peeling the garlic, chopping it down, sauteing it in the good olive oil, that for me is ceremony. And then I took my wind walk in the middle after I got things ready. I came back and I assembled my eggplant. And and everyone's like, well, who are you cooking for? You've got, 12 dinners there. I'm thinking, well, my friends come curbside and get takeout. I mean, so for me, somehow I've gone back into the creation part of cooking, and that bringing forward that love for me is one way of actually clearing the vegetables,
Right.
and then, you get on the phone and did you wash them? Did you do, and it's like on the laundry list, but the energetics for me of actually being present to the food you're cooking, that old thing, chop wood and carry water, is where we have to get back to the essentials.
Right. Well, and it all has to do with being grateful, as you're cooking. And back in the 70s, before I got into shamanism, I think I was always born to serve. And, I didn't always have a way to serve in life. And so when I lived in the Haight-Ashbury, I discovered, I didn't know this, but when I moved into a commune, the very first thing was they handed me a book and said, it's your job to make us bread for dinner tonight. I said, bread? I never made bread. Here's a recipe, make it. And, and everybody was like, oh my God, this bread is unbelievable. What did you do? And I ended up baking and selling my goods, and everybody wanted their birthday cake made by me. And I got to tell you, I can't tell you how bad they looked, but there was so much love packed in them, that people really got that. And then I cooked every Friday night for all my neighbors, and the same thing. My food looked terrible, but it tasted really good just because of all the love. I just had so much love to give. I had no shamanic practice. I had no way to express it. So I expressed it in the food that I cooked and how I baked. And so, the point for me was not to get into a long thing about ceremony, but just to say that as we're looking at how do we clean up the collective, that means cleaning up what you bring into your house, but not just with spraying it down with Lysol and other chemicals to kill the virus. You have to spray it all down with love and gratitude from your heart. to get rid of whatever energy got picked up by all the people don't know how to work with the energy coming through them right now. So it is just kind of flying everywhere. And so it's not just washing your hands, it's washing everything you bring into your house with love and light.
I like that. Here's my eggplant from last night that I made.
Ooh.
I know, it looks really good. I'm very gone into comfort. I called it last night on my Instagram was food comfort. Instead of comfort food, it was like cooking the food is the comforting part of it all. And the other thing is my suggestion for this is that you don't lose your love when you go into the store. That you become that vessel of service, knowing that if you're listening, first of all, if you're listening to the Shaman's Cave, more than likely, and that, you know, there's a lot of beginners listening, that this work of transformation begins internally. And so, you know, knowing that everything is a little stressed out. So how do I show up even nicer today? How do I show up with love for those people who are on the front line every single day at the grocery store or the date packing factory or the pharmacies, and really, you know, do I go a little bit out of my way because I can? And, you know, and how do we spread that extra niceness out into the world? I think I said on our last show, the very first day when everyone was, all of a sudden, everyone wanted to be on Zoom. And, you know, here I go right into my little first tantrum. I'm thinking like, oh, you know, and I gave myself a wind slap. No, this is not how you want to show up for this event. So the part of awakening for me is that instead of reacting, we respond. We take that extra breath before we spew out our anger and disappointment. Trust me, you know, this was the year I was going to be more social. I mean, so when I started the Windwork Basics class this week, it was more like, okay, you know, you all made some kind of a vision that you were going to do in 2020 was going to be the year of not. And right. So like, what do we do now? I think this is the transformation of how do we show up and be in the world? And like with Sandra, like, so she had to give all of those plants some extra love. So I think that's just a symbol that we're going to have to give everything a little bit of extra love. Like last night I was out for a wind walk in the other room. Do you see those people congregating over there? And I'm thinking, you know, they're all 16, 17-year-olds. And they're like, yes, I do. And I go, yeah, it's a little tense being that we're all being cooped up like this. Yeah, but I'm going to go call the police. And I'm thinking like, okay, you go do that. It's like, can we take a step back? And, you know, I did think like, okay, probably this is what I got last night. The parent, the mother, or the single, this was my vision. The single parents out working, the kids have no school, and, you know, they're inviting their friends over when their parents are out at work and they're trying to be socially safe. So they're doing it in the front yard. Right. And, you know, and so can we shift our perception enough to see it through the eyes of the 16 or 17-year-old who just found out that school's canceled for the rest of the year. Right. You know, and that they can't get into college. And I mean, there's all of these things that we have. There is no roadmap for what we're in the moment. No, we, the thing that we have to do is we have to stay in the present. And also it's really important for us to understand that just like the ancestors have been sharing with us for tens of thousands of years, what we are going to need to do to get through the times that we're in right now, that same information that they're bringing through actually already lives in your DNA and in your soul. Your soul actually has, I'm just going to be honest. There's no way to know if you get the coronavirus, if you're going to live or die. And so I find myself reflecting on death a little bit more because I just don't know. And
I've talked about this on other shows before, but when clients come to me with a terminal illness and ask me if they're going to die, everybody's going to die in order to live. All of you who lived through the coronavirus, you're never going to be the same again. So a part of you died in order to survive. And then there's the part of the population whose soul said, it's time. It's time for me to leave. This is my doorway out. And they leave, but everybody's going to die. Everybody's going to die. It's just whether it's physical death or spiritual death that you're going to go through. And so I explain this to my clients, but the thing that I explain to my clients the most is that it's your soul, not your ego or personality, that makes a decision on the next step of your healing process, whether the next step of your healing process is life or whether the next step of your healing process is death. That is the decision of your soul. So how do we quiet? How do we get off our devices and stop listening to 50 podcasts in a day because they're playing 24/7? How do we get into a quieter place so we can actually access the information that your DNA already holds of what you need to survive, and your soul is dying to talk to you, to let you know what it wants, what its passion is, what it wants during this time. So the key is really staying present, because none of us know what's going to happen. So you can't go too far out into the future. You can't. We don't have a clue where this is going. And find sometimes during the day, if you want to listen to Alexa make sounds of animals for part of the day, that's fine.
Does she do that? I don't have an Alexa.
Well, my husband got an Alexa, and all of a sudden I'm hearing all these crazy stuff. I said to him, what is going on? And he said, there are all these emails being sent. This is what you can make Alexa.
That's very funny. My friends gave me one for over Christmas, and it's still sitting in a box over there somewhere. And so someone else was like, "You're not going to use it. Send it to me." I'm thinking like, well, I don't know if I'm going to use it or not. And I'm thinking like, right now I'm not using it, and that's the way it is. Well, did you want to lead an exercise, or was this just more of a conversation?
Yeah, this is just more of a conversation of really trying to. It's more when you come home from wherever you are. It's more than spraying yourself down, using Purell and washing your hands to happy birthday. There's more to keep safe during this time. And it's finding little ways to bring ceremony into your life. Yes, I'm saying it's a loss of our culture that we stop doing these long ceremonies, but here we are. We've lost it. Here we are. Maybe we'll get it back. Maybe people will feel inspired to do more. But for now, do your prayers every day. Burn some sacred herbs. When you come home, make sure you emanate love and light into everything that you're going to ingest, wear, and that's going to be in your space, in the house. Make everything sacred. And as Renee said, when you go out into the world, be a light and be one of those inspirational people who contribute purely by uplifting others.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that during this time, Sandra and I have committed to, coming on weekly and speaking with you, to try to be those beacons of light in our community. And so if you have topics, you can always send them at the Shamans Cave on the Shamans TV. There's a contact form, and we're going to keep spreading the good news, the ceremonial news, and because we are here for you, and we have both been in service for a very long time, and this is the time we were built for. I heard that this week. I think it was Greg Braden who did an interview and said, these are the times we were built for. And so we are strong and we can shine together as community. So come over to the Shaman's Cave and share what your experience is. No, I don't like doomsday news over there, so I usually remove it. So it's usually more positive, uplifting, sharing.
That's great. And tell people about the Shamans Cave and lead them to Shamans TV to sign up as a subscriber. We're getting more and more interest. The word is definitely getting out there. And if there's one thing, Renee and I have both been through really hard times. And the one thing that we both can do as elders for all of you is to show you how you can get through really challenging times too, with a smile on your face and a bright light and emanating love and light like we both are. It's possible. So stay with us, and we'll stay with you too.
Thanks, Sandra, and thanks everyone at home for listening, and we'll see you next week.